Hello and welcome back to Basketball Talk for Week 3, where we're going to be covering the games played between the 6th of November and the 12th of November. Was there 48 games played this week, Scott?
Yeah, 48 games, a lot for us to get stuck into.
Yeah, plenty to look into, so do you want to kick us off with the games on the 6th?
Yeah, so there's a total of 4 games played for this one. Just to start off looking at the Cavaliers versus the Lakers. It was unfortunately a loss for the Lakers, 114-100 in favour of the Cavs. There were some really good performances from Donovan Mitchell and from Darius Garland. They combined for 60 points and the Cavaliers made it look easy, really. The Toronto Raptors got a win over the Chicago Bulls, 113-104. Not much to write home about there, really. Again, the Toronto Raptors were pretty much in control for most of the game. The Super Jazz continued their winning streak with a 110-102 win over the LA Clippers. The Jazz made 17 more free throws and hit 96% of the free throws. So across the board, they played really well. They shot the ball well and they got another win under the belt. So the game in focus for the 6th of November was the Washington Wizards taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. It was quite a close game throughout the entire game, although the Wizards did start off with a 9-0 run before Steven Adams got the Grizzlies on the board with some points. But ultimately the Grizzlies, they got to the line a few more times. Obviously that always helps in close games, and they had 22 fast break points compared to the Wizards, who only had 8. So was there anything else in terms of key performances that stuck out for you, Ryan?
Yeah, the Grizzlies shot well from free. They hit 31% of the threes to the Wizards 19. Desmond Bane had a great game. He had 28 points with 3 rebounds and 4 assists. He was 4 of 8 from free. John Morant had a brilliant contribution as well. Lesser points than we used to see him from. He had 23 points, but he had 9 rebounds with 6 assists. Overall, it ended up being closer than what it could have been, obviously, because the Grizzlies outscored them 33-18 in the second, so they went in with a substantial lead in the half. But Washington managed to grab a few back. Obviously, they outscored the Grizzlies 31-24 in the third quarter, so it looked like they could have been making a comeback. It wasn't to be, and the Grizzlies moved to 7-3.
They do indeed. Grizzlies with a really good start to the season. I think in terms of watching the game, obviously the second quarter was where Bane started to take over a little bit. He hit a couple of threes, picked them an assist, and it was a good cut to the rim for him. That built up, as you were talking about the second quarter there, where they went in with a big lead. That's where they built a 16-point lead, kind of like with about half the quarter left to go, really. Ultimately, the Grizzlies, they kind of like saw it out, but the Wizards did go on a little run behind Hachimura, Barton. That kind of cut the lead to 81-74 towards the end of the third. So ultimately, a really good game to watch, and I always enjoy watching Steven Adams when I think he rolled his ankle or something. Came back into the game and he had those screen assists where it doesn't count as an assist, but it's an assist that leads to a basket. He had around about 2 or 3 of them in the fourth quarter, and it felt like a few of those separated it for the Grizzlies and got them back on track. So yeah, really, really good one to watch.
So that now leaves the Memphis Grizzlies 4-0 at home. For the 7th of November, the Wizards got an away win at the Hornets, winning 108-100. They outshot them by 11% from the field, with key contributions from Kuzma, who had 20 with 6 rebounds. Porzingis had 19 and 8 rebounds and 5 assists. We also had Jordan Goodwill with 17 points and 5 assists, so overall a good team performance.
Yeah.
We then had the Rockets blow out the Magic 143-127. The Rockets finally took off after last week, after us criticising them. They outscored them pretty much every quarter up until the last, actually. They were outscored 5 by the Magic in the last quarter. But a brilliant performance for the Rockets. Jalen Green had 34 points with 3 rebounds. An overall good performance.
Yeah, and both teams, the Houston Rockets in particular, they were lethal from the 3-point line. They hit 12 3-pointers more than the Orlando Magic did. But the more impressive part is not only did they have 12 more, they shot 50% from 3, which is always good.
Then moved to the Thunder playing away at the Pistons. The Pistons picked up the home win, winning 112-103. Jaden Ivey had a strong contribution as a rookie with 15 points, 11 rebounds and 6 assists. Pelicans flew out to Indiana and couldn't keep up with the Pacers, as they lost 129-122. Pacers shot 50% from the field, 40% from free, and 91% from the free throw line. Anytime you're shooting like that, you would expect to get a win.
Most definitely.
The Suns lost to the 76ers, 100-88. The Sixers picked up a home win against the Suns, winning 100-88. Joel Embiid had a massive contribution on a return with 33 points, 10 rebounds and 5 assists.
Yep.
We had the Hawks beating the Bucks, bit of a shock win. They won 117-98. Hawks snapped the Bucks' unbeaten record, which we were debating last week when it would end.
I feel like we kind of owe them a bit of a sorry, don't we? Maybe we were a little bit of a jinx last week talking about how
I thought they could have went 13-14-0.
Yeah,
wasn't to be.
Sorry, Bucks fans. That was probably our fault. We'll take the L on that one.
Blazers picked up a win against the Heat, 110-107. Blazers shot 52% from the field and 43% from free. It was a brilliant performance. Lillard only had 19 and 6. Solid contribution, not as much as you'd usually expect. Simmons had 25 and 4. Grant had 23 and 6. Overall, good contributions from the Blazers. Not as so from the Heat. 16 points for Butler. Good with 7 assists, but they need to be a bit higher really for the Heat to be racking up some wins. Evenly matched game between the Raptors and the Bulls. Bulls came out on top, 111-97. Bulls shot 52% from the field, which is good. Celtics picked up the away win at Memphis, snapping the home winning streak. They won 109-106. Jason Tatum had a massive contribution with 39 points, 3 rebounds. Brown had a solid contribution with 21 and 9 as well. Marcus Smart had 15 points, 12 assists and 7 rebounds in a triple-double. He played phenomenal.
Some good point guard play from Marcus Smart. It's nice to see him racking up the assists there and facilitating a bit more. It's good to see.
We then had the Knicks getting away win in Minnesota, 120-107. Knicks hit 8 more threes than the Timberwolves. I was expecting more from the Timberwolves this season, but it's just not looking to be so far.
They're slipping down the chart, unfortunately, aren't they? That trade isn't looking like it's paying off as much as they would have hoped anyway.
The Nuggets picked up the away win against the Spurs, 115-109. Jokic had a solid contribution with 26, 10 and 8 rebounds. Mavericks picked up the home win, 96-94 over the Nets, with Kevin Durant missing some late game free throws, Scott.
Let's go, Mavs!
Luka Doncic had 36 points, 6 rebounds and 6 assists. He's playing phenomenal overall, isn't he?
He is indeed. I'm sure his season low this year is 22 points, which when you think about it for a season low, it's not too shabby. But yeah, I was really glad to see us beat the Nets.
The Kings nearly got a win against the Warriors, but it wasn't to be. They now fall to 3-6 as of this game. It finished 116-113 to the Warriors. Warriors shot 50% from the field. Kings hit 11 more free throws than the Warriors. They were nearly there. They just couldn't edge it out near the end. Solid contributions from the Kings, with Fox having 28 points and 6 assists. Warriors, they had great performances from Curry, who had 47 with 8 rebounds and 8 assists. Phenomenal play. Wiggins had 25 points with 10 rebounds. Klay Thompson also had a solid contribution with 16 points and 3 assists. Wasn't to be for Sacramento.
Have you seen what Sacramento started doing? Obviously, they've not done it very often because they haven't won many games. They start shooting a laser out at the top of the stadium in a purple colour when they win a game. If the only thing you can attract fans with is a nice...
It's like the Batman signal for Sacramento.
It's like, Jesus Christ, lads,
you see it twice a year.
Yeah, it's amazing. I remember reading about it and I was thinking, if that's the big news coming out of Sacramento at the moment, don't consider yourselves an NBA team, lads. Go to the G League.
Moving on to a team who might fall into the G League if they don't start to win. The Lakers lost to the Jazz, 139-116. The Jazz are looking phenomenal right now.
Indeed.
They're 9-3. Basically the complete opposite to the Lakers, which are 2-8. Jazz shot 55% from the field with 43% from free. There was solid contributions for the Lakers, with Davis having 29 with 4 rebounds. None had a respectable 18 points. Westbrook had 22 points and 5 assists and 3 rebounds off the bench.
Off the bench, he's looking good.
But it wasn't to be, as Utah picked up the home win. So for the game in focus this week, we're going to look at the Cleveland Cavaliers as they went and played out in LA to the Clippers. They lost 119-117. Overall, it looks to be a very close game, Scott.
Both teams shot over 50% from the field and 45% from 3. So anytime you're doing that, the game's going to be entertaining. Very much felt like there was no defense getting played, but obviously it was just very good shooting from both teams. Cavaliers also got more rebounds as well, 48-31, but despite that massive rebounding advantage, they still couldn't come away with the win.
I'm interested to see how the Cavs develop, because they got some brilliant young players, particularly like Garland and stuff. I think they can be a real asset for the future for the franchise if they can keep hold of them.
This team's looking really promising, not just for the future in terms of 3 years from now. I think even
this year it'll be. I think they could have a good run in the playoffs.
They're looking really fun to watch at the moment.
Clippers are now 6-5 after this. Probably not as good a start as you would have hoped, but the load managing, obviously Kawhi Leonard and stuff as well. So,
yeah.
But Paul George is playing phenomenal at the moment. Obviously, in this game, he had 26 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists.
Crucially, gave them the lead as well with 37 seconds left. It was tied up, I believe, at 112, I think, or 114 apiece. And with 37 seconds left, he drove to the paint, got over somebody, and was able to lay it up. So, good performance all round, but key in the clutch as well.
Do you think for the Clippers, it'll be a case of load manage to even finish mid-table, solidly get into the playoffs, but not focus on being, the top seed, and then hopefully have everyone fit.
At the minute, I think they're probably just aiming for a top 6 seed, and let's try and get John Wall, Paul George, make sure that Zubac is fit as well, and make sure Kawhi Leonard is ready to go and things. I think that's probably the key things.
Do you still think they can make a run?
I wasn't too convinced that they would be getting... I think you picked them for your Western Conference Finals. I didn't pick them in mine. I didn't think that they would be able to do it simply because you were banking on 2 players who've missed a lot of time due to injuries with Kawhi and John Wall. I don't want to be right. I'd be more than happy for them to do well, but I personally don't see them making too much of a deep run in the playoffs. So we're going to skip over the 8th of November. Obviously, there was no games played, nothing to cover. We're going to take a look at the 9th of November where there was 13 matches played in the NBA. Kicking us off was a Blazers vs Hornets. This led to a 105-95 win for the Trail Blazers. Damian Lillard had 26 points, 7 assists and 6 rebounds, so really productive showing from him. We also saw the Denver Nuggets travel to the Indiana Pacers, but they came away with a 122-119 win. Despite a really productive performance from Benedict Mathurin, he scored 30 points. My Dallas Mavericks somehow lost to the Orlando Magic, despite Paolo Banchero not playing. I don't really know what happened there, to be honest. It wasn't a particularly good game. I'm just going to scoot over it because I don't like facing the fact that we dropped the game to the Orlando Magic, who were 3-9. So the Super Jazz continued to steamroll the NBA with a 125-119 win over the Atlanta Hawks. Lauri Markkanen continued to look like a potential all-star with 32 points and 8 rebounds. I'm penciling it in right now. Utah Jazz 2023 NBA champions. There's no stopping them. They're going to go 79-3. We move over to the Boston Celtics, who hosted the woeful Detroit Pistons. The Celtics absolutely smothered them 128-112. Jason Tatum with 31 points and 5 assists. As much as we're playing around with players maybe being all-stars, he really is looking like an MVP candidate this year. And Jaden Ivey notched his second career double-double with 19 points and 10 rebounds for the Detroit Pistons. So looking to see some improvements for Jaden Ivey over the next few games. The Houston Rockets saw some engine failure after just one game and came back down to earth for the 116-109 loss to the Toronto Raptors. It's not worth really going through who played well for the Houston Rockets because everybody's playing bad really at the moment. The New Orleans Pelicans were able to beat the Bulls 115-111. Again, this was a game in which both teams shot 50% from the field, so really high efficiency and a really good game to watch if you're looking for some highlights to take a look at. The Phoenix Suns continued to pile on just a little bit more pressure on the Timberwolves, who now, after this game, slid to 5-7. They obviously made the big Rudy Gobert trade, and at the moment, it doesn't quite look like it's panning out too well for them, although Rudy Gobert did have a relatively decent game with 25 points and 11 rebounds. But we saw a big game from Devin Booker, who scored 32 points and 10 assists. The Milwaukee Bucks ended their one-game slide against the Oklahoma City Thunder with a 136-132 double overtime win. This game is really notable for Javon Carter, who had a career-high 36 points, 12 assists. Really good to see kind of role players get those moments. I always think it's always fun to see it and not just be your main guys doing all the work. So a lot of fun to see an under-the-radar guy have such a great game for them. Memphis Grizzlies picked up a routine win against the San Antonio Spurs, 124-122, although the San Antonio Spurs did give them a little bit of a skirt as they took the game to overtime. We had the Battle of LA, Clippers versus Lakers. Anyone want to take a guess what happened here? Yeah, you guessed right. Clippers absolutely smashed the Lakers. I think that makes it 9 or 10 games in a row now that the Clippers have beaten the Lakers. So very much
a different display what it was 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, completely different. The Battle of LA now is very
They're
one-sided.
no longer the ugly child in the basement anymore.
No, but the Lakers will always have bragging rights. They've got significantly more titles, and that's understandable. But right now, if you're picking a team that you probably want to follow or watch, you're picking the Clippers over the Lakers. And the final game of the evening, just to briefly touch on, was the Sacramento Kings somehow, and I'll repeat that, somehow getting a win over the Cleveland Cavaliers, 127-120. I don't know how it happened. They don't know how it happened. It's one of those times where everything aligns, the stars are right, and somehow the Kings actually managed to beat a good team.
In California, the Lakers are the worst team.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for them. Who'd have thought that at the start of the year? Because, to be fair, no one at the start of the year thought that trio probably still wasn't going to work together after it hadn't worked last year. But unfortunately, the Lakers still found themselves struggling. The game of focus for this particular evening was the big old game between the New York Knicks and the Brooklyn Nets. It was a 112-85 win for the Brooklyn Nets. I remember when there was a lot of talk between kind of like Brooklyn and New York and who was going to be the king of New York, if you will. At the minute, it's really hard to take New York as any sort of threat. I don't know what your opinion on it is, but I really don't see them as a threat to anybody at the moment.
Yeah, I don't see them as a threat, but they have got some good assets and they can produce good games.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on about the players individually. It's just getting them to play together and rack up the wins consistently is probably the big question for New York. Obviously, they didn't do it tonight. They got steamrolled 112 to 115. That's like the Nets just playing better because they've got a new coach. The players suddenly start to play better. It happens in lots of other sports as well. We have big contribution from Durant here. He had 29 points with 12 rebounds and 12 assists. It's phenomenal. Curry played brilliant off the bench with 23 points and 3 rebounds.
6 of 11 on his threes.
I think the Knicks can improve for the future. It's all there to be a good team in the future, but that's always the case with the Knicks, particularly the past 15 years. They get on the verge of becoming a consistent playoff team, dare I say, contender on the edge of it, and then it's blown up.
Yeah. Feels like they're always
few
close.
Trades and injuries and stuff, or management. There's always one thing or another. So disappointing for the Knicks to lose the Battle of New York by such a landslide that evening, but it was a good game for the Nets.
If you're a Brooklyn fan, go back and watch it. They built an early lead in the first quarter. They were up by 16, moved the ball well, found the open shooter. Again, it was really nice, kind of like team-orientated basketball. Seth Curry then hit 3 consecutive threes in the third quarter. Again, it just blew the lead open entirely. Dare I say Ben Simmons in the third quarter actually looked okay. Grabbed a few rebounds, a few assists, was playing a little bit more aggressive. Kevin Durant was relying on his mid-range jumpers, again, making it look easy. I can't remember who the defender was, but he was able to shake a defender off before hitting a mid-range jumper. But it's just like one of those constant reminders that when Kevin Durant wants to take over a game, there really is little you can do to stop him. In the second half, the Nets controlled it. Durant got a triple-double. The Knicks had some nice plays from Barrett and Brunson, but ultimately, the entire game, it was all in the hands of the Brooklyn Nets. So they've got bragging rights.
In your opinion, for the Knicks, who do you think they need? Like 1 or 2 key pieces, if you could, or even one. What position do you strengthen in January if you can? January, February, whatever the deadline's February, isn't it?
Yeah, the trade deadline's usually kind of like February time. Dare I say, a trade that I was reading about earlier on a few days ago was possibly Anthony Davis to the New York Knicks. It was a trade for Mitchell and RJ Barrett, and obviously a pick as well. It's whether, I suppose it would be whether the Knicks value Anthony Davis in the same light as what he was when he first went to the Lakers. But
I don't.
Possibly not.
No one has said about them getting close and then blowing up. That's it right there. It's going to happen this season.
But
so there you go.
You know what? It feels like a very New York Knicks move, doesn't it?
It is exactly something the New York Knicks would do. And on paper, the idea of it sounds brilliant, and it just doesn't materialise. So that's probably something that'll happen. I think
with his injuries, he's it's hard to really.
I don't think he has the same desire. To be honest, that sounds bad, but obviously some games he just explodes and he's phenomenal, and then it just looks a bit of uninterest. In all honesty,
I don't know who the Knicks should trade for. In all honesty, I felt as though when
do you think they try and get a big man?
They've got Mitchell, who is kind of like the centre for the future. He's a good rebounder and a good shot blocker, but still quite raw offensively. I felt as though they went a little bit too deep on Jalen Brunson. I don't think, and I'm not trying to have a go at him. He's a very good player. I just don't think he's all-star level. But he's getting.
You said he was an MVP when he was at Dallas.
Of course I did. Everyone's an MVP, mate. Boban Marjanovic was MVP for half a season. He only played 7 minutes. But for Jalen Brunson, I think they paid him like an all-star, but he's just not at that level. I think they're still hoping for RJ Barrett to develop. That's fine.
I think he could as well. I like RJ Barrett.
He's a good player. It's just, I suppose, by this time now, kind of going into your third, fourth season, you want to see that jump, don't you? You want to see guys taking that jump and leading. And I just don't, at the minute, I just don't see it for him. But I feel like the Knicks, it's hard for them to really attract free agents. So maybe the only way they do get a big star is by getting a disgruntled one who's trying to force a trade, or someone who, another team doesn't feel as though they need. So, but it'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on the deadline anyway.
Moving on to the 10th of November, we've got 4 games, kicking off with Jalen Brunson's former team, the Dallas Mavericks. You managed to lose an away game to the Washington Wizards, 113-105. Luka Doncic had a solid contribution with 22 points, 9 rebounds and 6 assists. Dinwiddie exploded with 33 points and 6 assists and 4 rebounds, but it just wasn't good enough because Kuzma had 36 points, he had 11 rebounds and 6 assists. Hachimura also contributed massively with 23 points and 8 rebounds. We had Barton with 14 points, 7 rebounds and 4 assists. Scott, you lost to the Wizards.
Are you enjoying seeing us lose?
No, not really.
Not at all, no. Oh, okay.
I mean, to be honest, it's a similar team. in terms of the record.
Yeah,
They're equally matched.
I suppose it's more just...
Although you wouldn't have said that before
No.
with the way Luka Doncic can win games, but as of right now, Dallas are basically just a 50% team.
Felt like they out-rebounded us quite easily and they dominated us in the paint, and I think that's something that the Mavs have definitely got to sort out. We brought in JaVale McGee and he's playing like 7 minutes a game. I don't get it, so I don't know what we're going to do at the centre spot, but yeah, we absolutely got our backside handed to us, so well done, Washington.
The Heat managed to pick up a home win against the Hornets, 117-112, with Butler having a massive game with 35 points, 10 rebounds and 8 assists. The Blazers picked up the away win, winning 106-95 over the Pelicans. The Pelicans didn't play great as they committed 8 more turnovers than the Blazers. Blazers had solid contribution from Grant, who had 27 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists and 4 steals. 4 steals!
Yeah.
He's a robber! Burglar. Simons had 23 points, 6 assists and 3 rebounds. The Blazers are playing well overall now. That's 6-1 on the road, Scott.
They've been a surprise team for me. I wasn't expecting them to be this good this early on, but they're playing well together. They're looking sharp, and it's really fun to watch them at the moment.
For today's game of focus, we're out in Atlanta, where they picked up the 104-95 win over the 76ers. Caw. Trae Young had 26 points, 7 assists and 3 rebounds. He played brilliantly. Capella had solid contribution with 18 points but 20 rebounds.
It's a game in which obviously rebounds really mattered. So the Hawks had a slight edge in terms of 54-45. Those 20 rebounds from Capella, they may not always result in a basket straight away, but ultimately when you get the ball off a missed shot, it really gives you an opportunity at either pushing the ball for a transition, or if you've got an offensive rebound, you go straight back up and get the ball in. So Capella, 18 points, 20 rebounds, it's a fantastic performance.
Hawks are now 5-2 at home and they're 8-4 overall, so it's not a bad start for the Hawks. I like the Hawks and I'd like to see them push on further. Obviously last year they had that exit, which was much less than what they did in the previous year when they beat the New York Knicks, and everyone thought they were going to go much further on than they did. Last year they just struggled with Miami. I think last year showed the level more than the previous year. The previous year was a bit more of an overperformance in my opinion, but we've got Dejounte Murray, who's a solid player as well, who's been impressive. I'm really hoping to see them push on.
No, they're really good. They're working as a backcourt. I remember in one of our earlier videos where we were talking about trades that had happened, and I said I was a bit unsure how they'd mesh because they're both natural point guards. How is Trae going to feel, with not having the ball in his hands? But if anything, the two of them are working really well as a backcourt duo. So at the minute, if the Hawks keep on pushing up the standings, there's no way they shouldn't have 2 All-Stars picked for this year's game in terms of having both Young and Murray representing them. So really, really good to see from them.
And in terms of Philly, probably not what you'd expect them from a start this season.
Not right now. They've been hit by injuries. To me, this game, when I was watching it back, this is one where I felt they really needed James Harden. Felt like they were lacking a creator, felt like they were lacking a floor general, if you will. And not knocking Tyrese Maxey, I think he had 15 points and 5 assists. That's not bad by any means, but it's just not quite all-star James Harden level, is it, in terms of the level of production and things. So felt like they were lacking, obviously, one of the key players, and the Hawks were able to come away with a win. But for Philly, they're hoping that obviously better times are ahead. So we're going to take a look at the games played on the 11th of November. There was a total of 8 games in the NBA. Starting things out with the Orlando Magic, who beat the Phoenix Suns 114-97. Worth noting, Chris Paul wasn't playing in this game, so they were a little bit underhand. But also, the Orlando Magic, they're without Paolo Banchero as well. The New York Knicks were able to beat the Detroit Pistons. We briefly covered a little bit about whether Barrett has taken that jump in an earlier talk, Ryan, with the New York and Brooklyn game, but this was a game in which he was looking brilliant with 30 points, 5 rebounds and 5 assists. Can't expect him to get that every single game, but I tell you what, if he can show a little bit more like that, maybe.
Yeah, he's played well this game, but I think for New York, they just need to be a bit more consistent. There's plenty of teams in the NBA that really, they should be the favourite to beat, whether that's home or away.
No, I agree. I think this is one of those games where they should have won, and they did. They played well. Despite the fact that the Pistons shot 12 more free throws, ultimately shot a lower percentage, and the Knicks had more points in the paint, so fair play to New York.
Out of 13 games, the Pistons now, they're 0-7 on the road, so it's not looking good when they pack the bags.
Yeah, when they go away from home, they definitely don't play particularly well, do they? The Oklahoma City Thunder picked up a win against the Toronto Raptors, 132-113. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander continued to play well with 20 points, 3 rebounds and 4 assists. And ultimately, Anunoby, who's really looking like he's taking a jump in terms of the defensive side of the ball for the Raptors, 13.6 rebounds, 2 steals, maybe not eye-popping stats, but he's looking like he's taking a really good jump for the Toronto Raptors. Somehow, some way, similar to the Kings earlier on, I don't really know how they've managed it, but the Spurs managed to beat the Milwaukee Bucks 111-93. A game that I think maybe...
Giannis, isn't it? He's slacking off since he got Player of the Week.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's gone to his head.
After that word,
he may well have not played this game, if memory serves me correctly. I think he may have not actually played in this game, but ultimately the Bucks have dropped a couple of games this week. Really surprising, to be honest, but as much as we're playing around with the Spurs, Kellen Johnson with 29 points, Vassell with 22 points, 5 rebounds. You can't really knock that. They're playing well, so well done for San Antonio. They've actually got, at the time of this game, it moved them to 6 and 7, so I'm taking the mick out of them as if they're a terrible team, but they're actually pretty close to 500, so can't really say too
similar
much
to
there.
Dallas.
Yeah, as much as that pains me to admit. The Timberwolves lost to the Memphis Grizzlies 114-103. As we said, the Timberwolves look like they're slacking a little bit, unfortunately. Ja Morant led this game with 28 points, 10 rebounds and 8 assists. And big old Desi Bane with 24 points, 3 rebounds and 5 assists. That combo at the moment.
Yeah, good contributions from the Timberwolves as well. You know, Cat had 13 and 10. Edwards had 28 and 6. Just no seems to get the wins.
No.
Sadly.
No,
they're still poor defensively.
Doesn't seem as though it's working. When Gobert's on the floor, they're good defensively, but when he's on the floor, they're also really bad offensively. So it's kind of it's a little bit of like a double negative for them, unfortunately. But yeah, for the Grizzlies, another good win. The Cleveland Cavaliers also took on the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors managed to get a win here, 106-101. Curry dropped another 40-piece, along with 4 assists and 5 rebounds. Donovan Mitchell also had a double-double, near triple-double, with 29 points, 10 rebounds and 9 assists. We then had the two calamities of California facing off, the Kings versus the Lakers. Again, I don't really know how they managed to do it. Sacramento Kings beat the LA Lakers 120-114. Was some good shooting from the Kings, actually, 51% from the field. Sabonis with 21 and 10, and De'Aaron Fox with 32 points.
The Kings have a similar record to Dallas.
You keep throwing up this thing about so-and-so similar to Dallas. The point is, at the end of the year, Dallas are going to be far better than most of these teams. I'll say that right now. I know that for a fact, so I'm not even bothered about that. But to give some praise to the Lakers as well, Russell Westbrook continued to play well off the bench with a double-double, 21 points and 11 assists. And Anthony Davis also looked good with a strong double-double of 24 points and 14 rebounds. For the game in focus for this evening, it was the Denver Nuggets taking on the Boston Celtics. Your Boston Celtics, Ryan, they got a huge win against another, what they'll be hoping is a title contender in the Denver Nuggets, 131-112. Anything that stands out for you?
Yeah, what sticks out is that the Celtics outscored them every quarter. They played phenomenal. They shot 55% from the field as opposed to the Nuggets 45%. Mm-hmm. 45 is still respectable, but not when the Celtics are playing so well.
No.
Jokic had a brilliant game. He had 29 points, 8 rebounds and 3 assists, but it just wasn't enough because the All-Star / MVP Tatum is 34 points, 8 rebounds and 5 assists. Al Horford had a brilliant game with 21 and 7. Brown had 25 points, 8 rebounds and 8 assists, now a triple-double.
Yeah.
Overall, the Celtics just were on point and they played really well.
Celtics built a quick 12-point lead in the first quarter off some three-pointers and a run-out dunk by Jason Tatum, and overall in the first frame they did shoot the ball well. They did manage to extend the lead to 19 points. However, the Nuggets were able to trim it down to 9 towards the end of the first half, so showing some fight, showing they could come back. A dunk by Gordon and some post play from Jokic again were able to cut the lead down to 7. Nuggets played a little bit better in the third quarter and it felt a little bit more team orientated, more passing, more moving, good to see. And in the fourth quarter, the Celtics pretty much dominated it. They outscored the Nuggets 34-21. They went on an early run in the fourth quarter, opened up a 15-point lead, and to be totally honest, after that, the game wasn't close. So a comfortable win for the Boston Celtics. And are we liking what we're seeing from them at the moment, Ryan?
I'm loving what I'm seeing from Boston at the moment, but obviously I mentioned this last week, when the Celtics are on point and, you know, they live and die by the free and all that sort of stuff, they can play phenomenal, but then they can have a really bad game. So I think it's just about meshing. I'm really happy with what I'm seeing at the moment, given, you know, the record, and they've got a new coach. So it's far better than what I anticipated. You've still got the engineer of Gallinari as well, who's to come back. So yeah, he should be an asset when he returns, but I think they can push on and do really well. Yeah,
I'm really enjoying what they're seeing. I was hoping that they wouldn't drop off because of the coaching issues. I'm glad that they've been able to still do well and not have that fall and, you know, not seemingly slide down the Eastern Conference standings and not look like contenders. So great to see at the moment.
So to finish with the 12th of November, the Nets stomped the Clippers by 15 points, winning 110-95. The Nets winning streak continues.
Does indeed.
The Wizards then got the home win against the Jazz, winning 121-112. Porzingis had 31 with 10 rebounds. Kuzma played well with 23, 8 and 6. The Celtics then picked up an away win against the Pistons, winning 117-108 to improve their record to 10-3. The Hawks got dominated by the Sixers, 121-109.
They did indeed.
Embiid had a phenomenal game with 42 points, 10 rebounds and 6 assists. Maxey had a great game, 26 points and 9 assists. You wouldn't expect that regularly from him, Scott, but it was a great game on this one.
Probably not. No, he has taken a step this year. He's definitely looking like the third best option behind Embiid and James Harden. But at 26 and 9 every game, probably can't expect it. But I'll tell you what, if he can give that level of production and just be consistent, it's a whole new offensive weapon for the Philadelphia 76ers.
The Heat dominated the Hornets, which isn't really a shock. I mean, it's Charlotte. But they won 132-115. Played brilliantly. They outscored Charlotte by 20 points in the third quarter alone.
That's a pasting.
Butler had 20.7 rebounds and 8 assists. Do you think Butler needs to contribute a bit more in terms of points for consistent wins for Miami? Or do you think he's okay being around that 20-22 mark?
I think the Heat, in theory, have enough people where you could spread your points out. So, for example, Butler, when Kyle Lowry's fit and healthy, Strus has taken a bit of a jump this year. Tyler Hero was the reigning sixth man with 20 points a game. Bam should be scoring close to 20. I don't think Butler needs to average 30 every night for them to win. What I think is, as a team, they need to be consistent with the score. And I think to me, when the Heat are at the best is when they're sharing the ball and when it's not just one guy scoring like 35, 40 points. So to me, I think they play better when it's like this. When you've got, with this alone, you've got Butler with 20, Adebayo with 24, Strus has had a 31-point game. You're not going to get that from him every night, but spread the ball out, pass the ball, let people be options. To me, that's the best for the Miami Heat.
Moving on to the Dallas Mavericks, who managed to pick up a home win to move to 7-5.
Yeah,
He beat the Blazers 117-112. Blazers shot 9 more free throws than the Mavs, but couldn't get it done. Dallas shot 50% from the field, which is phenomenal. Rockets couldn't fly as high as the Pelicans as they lost 119-106. Zion Williamson had 26.6 assists and 4 rebounds. He's looking good.
He is indeed. We gave him a little bit of slack, didn't we, earlier on in the year, saying that he needs to get himself in shape, he needs to get himself ready, he needs to be more of a professional. I know he's missed a couple of games due to some injuries, but to be fair to him, he's looking good. And that Pelicans team, we talk about young teams with a real future. They're one of the most exciting. And side note, in case people weren't aware, the Lakers, they're on the bad side. The team that owns that pick, Pelicans. So in terms of it being a valuable asset as well, they could be getting better in the future as well.
To finish for the game and focus for today, we had the Raptors and the Pacers. The Pacers beat them 118-104. Scott, what was your takeaway from this game?
Pacers were brilliant from the field. They shot 50%. They hit 12 more threes than the Toronto Raptors. In today's NBA, anytime you hit 12 more three-pointers than the other team, 99 times out of 100 you win in that game. So the Pacers were just absolutely electric from the field and from three-point range. And they grabbed more rebounds, 51-43.
Hield had a solid contribution with 22 points, 8 rebounds. Turner had 19 and 10. Hield is one to be rumoured to the Lakers. Think he'll be going there in the future?
I could see a lot of teams wanting him because he is very much an elite three-point shooter. It might not offer much else. In this game, he's grabbed a few rebounds, obviously, but his main focus really is just to get the ball up, get a lot of threes up and get points on the board. So but in this particular game, he played really well for the Pacers. He was valuable for them. And yeah, I can see why teams are knocking on the Pacers' door and asking about his availability.
Pacers are now 6-6. Do you see them trying to get more assets to push on, or do you see them trying to offload some assets to get better draft picks?
I think offload personally. It's not that I want to see the Pacers lose, but I could see them probably trying to offload a few assets and get a few more picks, simply because the allure of getting Victor Wembanyama and being able to team him up with Benedict Mathurin and Tyrese Halliburton. You've got 3 very young, promising building blocks for the future. And not to knock the Pacers, they're not always a team that attracts big name free agents. So if you can dangle the carrot of Miles Turner and Buddy Hield for a pick that you can maybe flip an asset somewhere, I could see them probably offloading them, even though they're having great seasons actually. Buddy Hield and Miles Turner have both been really productive.
So to look at the weekly form for the Eastern Conference, the biggest winners this week was the Boston Celtics. They have 4 wins on the bounce. The biggest losers this week in terms of all losses was the Charlotte Hornets. Not really a shock, it's something you'd expect. But shockingly this week, the Cleveland Cavaliers also had 3 losses, Scott.
Yeah.
I've just been speaking about them, saying it's a team for the future, and obviously, they're going to push on well into the playoffs. You wouldn't be thinking that after looking at them this week.
Unfortunately, no. It looks like they've had a little bit of a period where they dropped a couple of games, some games that were probably winnable, but ultimately, yeah, you'll hope they'll bounce back.
The only other team to get 3 wins this week is the Washington Wizards as well.
The mighty Wizards.
Everyone else has either had 2 or 1.
They've put a spell on everybody, haven't they? And that's how they've managed to get 3 wins. I don't really know how that's happened, to be honest, because I'm pretty sure Bradley Beal missed a couple of games. But for the Wizards, fair play. They've played well. I think the Detroit Pistons, again, they're kind of going how you'd expect, aren't they? They've lost a couple of games. The Knicks, a little bit of surprise there. Brooklyn Nets, though, they've looked all right as well. They've managed to pick up a couple of wins this week too.
Philly, although they've struggled, they got 2 wins out of 3, so they've not had a bad week.
No, and maybe the Magic has surprised me a bit there as well. 2 wins, 1 loss, and both of those wins coming without Paolo Banchero, so they're showing that it's not just the Paolo Banchero show. He's a good player. He's obviously a guy for the future, but they've got some other good young key pieces as well. And Bol is looking amazing, by the way. He wasn't getting much time at all before he came to the Magic, but he's actually looking really good.
Defence is key as well, as the Boston Celtics have the best defensive rating in the NBA, and they went on to win 4 this week. So, good all round.
Offense wins games, defense wins championships. We'll move over now to the weekly form for the Western Conference. This week there wasn't anybody in the West that managed to stay undefeated, but we did have some really good weeks for the Portland Trail Blazers. 3 wins, 1 loss. Memphis also into that category as well with 3 wins and 1 loss. The Lakers are racking up an awful lot of L's at the moment. That's 4 straight losses for them this week.
The only 2 teams to not get a win this week was the Lakers, as they have 4 losses, and we also had the Minnesota Timberwolves losing 3 on the bounce. I'm just looking now, the Minnesota Timberwolves are 16th in defensive rating in the NBA. Now, considering you signed a former multiple-time Defensive Player of the Year, you would have hoped that would have improved somewhat.
Hopefully so, yeah. You'd definitely be bringing him in, hoping you're going to see an impact on that end. I think maybe the bigger problems here for the Timberwolves and Lakers, as much as we joke about teams that are losing, and obviously they're tanking for a reason, the Timberwolves and Lakers weren't coming into this season thinking, let's play bad, let's get picks. If anything, the Timberwolves made the big trade. This is meant to take us up the standings. We are now meant to be, going into contenders. I actually think I remember Karl Anthony Towns saying he feels like this is a championship roster earlier on in the season. I may be wrong on that. And there's no way...
Maybe in the G League.
Yeah, maybe. And there's no way that combination of Davis, Westbrook and LeBron were thinking, yeah, we'll probably be 2-10. It won't be too much of a problem. So them racking up a lot of losses earlier on in the season is a bit of a concern for me. So
the biggest surprise this week is the Utah Jazz, as the 3-1. They continue to just dominate.
I don't know how he's doing it. Danny Ainge has somehow just put together...
I think it's just good overall team play together. Yeah. There's no egos, just... Let's play basketball. There's no expectations as well.
No, definitely.
So it's just go out and play your best basketball, and it seems to be working.
Arguably, that's when it's most fun, isn't it? Just go and play, do your thing, and the coach has obviously got them playing well. And to me, it does signify, or not maybe signify, but I think I said this on one of the last episodes, that this team, in a weird way, reminds me a little bit of the Denver Nuggets from the 12-13 season. They weren't expected to tank by any means, but they didn't have an all-star on the roster. They somehow went on to win like 52 games, and I think they got a top 5 seed in the West. So, part of me wants Utah to get the reward of Victor Wembanyama, because they've let go of Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. But could you imagine the scenes if they went on to win the championship this year? How good would that be? I just think it'd be the best story in sports, in my opinion.
So to look at news around the league, we're going to kick it off with some problems with the Lakers. It's not all good in LA, Scott.
No, 2-10 to start off your first 12 games for the Lakers. It's definitely not what they were expecting. Although I must admit, I think it's been a little bit too easy to use Westbrook as the scapegoat. He's actually playing an awful lot better off the bench. He's looking like an actual valuable piece now. I think teams would consider trading for him if he wasn't having that $47 million deal this year, because you can't pay your 6th man of the year like he's an MVP candidate. It doesn't really work. So I think, but what he's showing at the minute is his willingness to change his role and play well. But I think it's the rest of the team that isn't really looking well. So Patrick Beverley, remember the quote at the start of the season, they're going to be playing with me. Do you think he's improved this Lakers roster at all?
No, he's shooting 23% from free.
Brilliant.
I think all of them really are poor. LeBron is starting to me to show his age. He's
unfortunately
struggling to carry the team, and that's not a knock on him.
No, he's year 20.
The years he's played in terms of the longevity,
it's ridiculous.
Serious injuries, but also the length of his seasons as well are often far longer than everyone else, because he then goes into international basketball and everything else he has. So
you'd think of the 8 straight years in the finals.
I was watching something the other day and they spoke about, the whole aim for the Lakers when they assembled this team and Anthony Davis was to slowly take over the load and LeBron was to sort of take a bit more of a backseat role. He can't, and I just think that's partly because just Anthony Davis just isn't that type of player. He's just not a leader, and we're seeing it a lot. Like Kevin Durant makes the point if he doesn't want to be a leader,
just wants to play basketball. But you want to
pull the strings like you're the leader, but you don't want to then be under the thumb, so to speak, when it's going wrong. Yeah, it's a poor situation for the Lakers. I don't see it improving, really. I think it's going to be difficult for them to turn it round. I don't see them making the play-in, really.
No, at the minute, hell no. There's absolutely no chance.
Struggle to stay healthy because I think they're going to put more on LeBron and stuff as well. And it's just going to be a difficult season, I think, for LA.
It's not a pleasant one to watch, and this is definitely no insult towards LeBron because he is in his 20th season in the NBA, so his body's got a lot of miles. He's played an awful lot of basketball throughout his entire life. You can't just keep on going. You can't be the top guy constantly. You're right. The idea of getting AD in was he's younger. He's still obviously like an MVP candidate. He should be the guy to bridge the gap really from the LeBron era to the next era of LA basketball, but it hasn't really worked out. I don't feel as though they're getting any production from outside of what you'd consider to be a big three with Westbrook and Davis and LeBron and things like that. So Kendrick Nunn, I think he had 18 points the other night. That was like the first time he'd scored in like 6 games. And he's playing big minutes. He's playing regular minutes.
No contribution.
No, it's
and
stupid.
If you're someone like Buddy Hield, do you think, I don't want to go there?
Probably not. I mean, you definitely get looks. You definitely get passes and open shots because LeBron's going to find you. But ultimately, the pressure is going to be on you to make it.
You're just another scapegoat. Yeah. It's just a really bad situation to play in right now. It's not even about Westbrook anymore. It's just becoming historically poor.
It's not fun to see. Definitely not fun to see at all.
And it's not good for the NBA because obviously the bigger teams draw the eyeballs as well.
They do indeed. They do indeed.
It's not a good thing to see, but
no,
I don't see them improving anytime soon.
Any trades that come to mind possible? Anything you think you'd like to see?
Well, I was going to ask you, if it plays out the way it's playing out now, do you see LeBron wanting a trade ultimately at the end of the season? Because I don't see him going to want to sit out another 2 years with that type of performance and that type of team.
No,
They've also not got much to trade either, so it's a bit of a lose-lose situation.
I could see him asking for a trade, which would be the first time
between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, it'd be the first time that obviously like a player of his magnitude has been traded, that type of thing.
And then to see where he could even go would be such an interesting prospect.
Cleveland, I'm coming home. Coming to join Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland.
They'd have to trade some away.
They'd have to give up some pieces.
They'd
have to give up some pieces, but an interesting trade I was reading about the other day, whether it's a feasible one or not, or whether they'd really consider it, was looking at the Phoenix Suns and whether they would consider swapping maybe Ayton, Cam Johnson and a pick for Anthony Davis. Because you would look at Davis when healthy, a defensive upgrade on Ayton and already a better scorer, and a legit all-star to put next to Booker when Chris Paul's aging. And the Lakers get back a young piece to build around in terms of Ayton. They get a 3-and-D wing in Johnson, and they manage to get a pick back, which they've lost all the picks.
The Lakers gain far more than...
Oh, I like that trade for the... Well, do you know what? I could see it both ways, but you're pinning all the hope on Davis being fit, and he basically isn't fit.
You're pinning it on Booker because, as you said, he's not going to be fit, and Paul's aging then.
Yeah, so you're putting it all on him.
That makes Devin Booker go bye-bye Phoenix.
Yeah. I just, at the minute, I don't see what teams would want to do business with the Lakers because there's no need to. The only piece they've got that I think people really, really want is LeBron. And to get him, you'd have to gut your roster because of his money, because of like the star power he commands.
And he also needs some load management because he's probably carrying a lot of nagging injuries. And the more he does it, the more it's going to turn teams off because them nagging injuries will start to become serious injuries.
Well, this is his 5th season with the Lakers. He's missed more games in the 5 years with the Lakers compared to the entire other 15 seasons he played before joining LA. So it's not...
Just shows how hard it is.
Yeah, definitely. You know, there's what he's done. He's been a freak of nature.
Now, like, I'd argue that's one of the worst teams he's ever had.
Yeah, if you just go
take away the names, the 2 names.
No, if you just go through the roster, like, there's no one else here where you'd say, for example, Lonnie Walker shouldn't be your 4th best player. Pat Bev shouldn't be your 4th best player. When these guys are, that is showing that the team isn't ready to compete. I know that was the hope coming into the season, that they'd be contending for a title, but they don't even really have a backup centre. So Anthony Davis, who everybody knows doesn't like to play in the post, doesn't like to be bounced around and stuff, he's having to play more minutes as a big man than he probably wants to. So I think it's a tough one for the Lakers, and there's nothing that comes to mind for me as a quick fix, unfortunately.
Do you think Darvin Ham makes it out the season?
I don't think you can blame him for this. I really
don't. Think you can, but
so,
it's the easiest thing to do is often just change a coach instead of manage to completely change your roster.
You've got to look at it as a common denominator. It's the same players from last year, and you're getting the same results. So it's not necessarily a coaching issue, unfortunately. And what Darvin Ham has shown in the beginning part of the season, the Lakers were playing.
He showed that he will bench Russell Westbrook, and he'll make his decisions without worrying about the consequences.
And earlier on in the season, the Lakers were playing good defensively. They're not now, but they were. So it shows that he can, help a team improve defensively. He's managed to convince Russell Westbrook to come off the bench. I think he showed him a picture of the Sixth Man of the Year trophy and said, "You'll get an individual award if you come off the bench and be really good." And Westbrook was like, "Okay, I'll do it. I'll do that." But he's managed to convince Westbrook to accept what you'd consider to be a diminished role, but play much, much better.
With the way the overall team's playing, I'm even starting to feel for Russell Westbrook. I'd like him to just get some wins somewhere else.
Yeah, so he can rebuild his career and his legacy.
Enjoy playing basketball, because it's not good for him either. And we mentioned that weeks ago. The attitude, obviously, he's got. It's not just a knock on him. It's just not a good situation to be in.
No, it's
literally you're probably being mentioned for trade rumours every day, and they don't want you there and so on. That doesn't create a good atmosphere.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
It won't help with team morale, in the dressing room and everything else. It's just not a good place to be. I don't see when it gets better.
I don't personally. I think it's going to be a very tough year for the Lakers.
If we look at the next few fixtures, playing the Nets, they've got the Pistons, they've got the Spurs, Suns. You'd pick them to at least lose 2 of the 4.
Yeah, I don't think they're beating the Nets or Suns. Pistons and Spurs are winnable games. But when
depends who turns up on the day.
Yeah, we looked at the Spurs roster before, and one of the games that we were looking at, they've got like a 5-6 record, I think, at the moment. So they're not actually playing too bad. They're not expected to do well. But at the minute, out of the next 4 games, I'd say Lakers would be lucky to win 2. So the final topic we're going to take a look at with the news around the league is Jacques Vaughn, who has obviously become the official coach of the Brooklyn Nets. They were flirting with the idea of bringing in Ime Udoka, who's obviously suspended with the Boston Celtics. Since taking over, Jacques Vaughn's led them to a 4-3 record, so they're back to winning ways under him. At times they've been without Kyrie and Ben Simmons. What's our thoughts at the moment on the Brooklyn Nets?
Just think the players have started to play.
Yeah.
Basically. I don't think he's improved them any, really. You don't change that quick, in my opinion.
No, I know what you mean.
Seeing something over Steve Nash was making it complicated. Now he's getting the team to play, and he's stripped it back and made it far more simple. But at the end of the day, you're professional basketball players. You should be able to understand stuff and simplify stuff to other team members if need be. I think Steve Nash was a bit of a scapegoat. I still think he can do better and move on and do well somewhere else. That's not to say Jacques Vaughn can't be a good coach. He can be. But I think if they had some bad performances, it'll soon be him put on the chopping block.
Yeah.
The way it was with Steve Nash.
Definitely.
So if I was him, I wouldn't be so excited about getting the head coaching job there, because we've all seen how quick it changes in Brooklyn.
Yeah. Glad to see Seth Curry back as well. He's had a little bit of an impact for the Nets in terms of helping them with some spark off the bench, if that makes sense. So it's nice to see him coming back in and recovering from his injuries and things. I think for the Nets at the moment, it's one of them where they're almost looking a little bit better without Kyrie being on the court. Obviously, that makes no sense because of on the court what he brings.
It's just less disruptions.
Yeah, I get that. But I do feel as well with the guys bringing you 25.6 assists, obviously that's got to be helpful for any team at all. And to take the load off Kevin Durant, I think at the moment it's looking a little bit more promising. If you're a Nets fan, you're 4-3, you're kind of on the upward trajectory. I know it's not perfect, but looking a little bit better than the start of the season.
How long do you think the honeymoon period lasts?
3 weeks, and then if it's not all peachy...
Would you say that quick?
Yeah, I'd say that quick, because it feels as though this team is so volatile and temperamental. In the space of a week, they can go from probably being kumbaya, we all love each other, let's get a matching tattoo, to we need to trade everybody, we need to build it all up from the ground again. So I think if they're not kind of like, close to maybe like a 5th or 6th seed by maybe like 25 games in, we may be looking at what's next.
So we'll finish with the weekly awards. First up is Rookie of the Week. Scott, you went with Jaden Ivey.
Yep, team record of 1-3 this week. I like what I saw from him. So in 31 minutes per game, 17.5 points, which is a nice little boost to him. 7 rebounds per game, 4.8 assists per game, 1.3 steals. And very respectable shooting stats as well. 45% from the field, 42 from 3-point range, and 73 from the free throw line. again, as a rookie, I think your team record can sometimes be a little bit less important because it's just about developing yourself, isn't it, and showing you can play in the league. So for me, I really like what I saw from Jaden Ivey this week.
Out of the 3 weeks, which rookies impressed you the most?
Ooh, most impressive. I'd probably say Benedict Mathurin, simply because I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah. And the amount of games obviously we covered as well for that first week and a half, because it was a condensed week, the first week as well. So his performance over the first week, I'd say he's been the better of the 3, and I wasn't expecting him to play that well. But a solid week from Jaden Ivey. I think he's a good player to watch. I think it would be interesting to see how he pushes on.
Him and Cade Cunningham together is a great backcourt for the future. I know we were talking before about who's the current best backcourt and kind of looking like Morant and Bane, but in terms of if you're the Detroit Pistons, you've got Jaden Ivey, you've got Cade Cunningham as your backcourt. I think it's brilliant. And to me, what we're seeing a little bit more from Jaden Ivey, especially in this last week, is him proving he can score the ball. Is he gonna score 42% of all of his threes for the season? Probably not going to be that high. Maybe even his field goal percentage slips a bit below 45%, but ultimately he's showing he can get the ball in the basket, and that's what he's there for. So yeah, for Jaden Ivey, Rookie of the Week for us this week. Well done.
So to finish with the Player of the Week, we had multiple selections, didn't we, Scott? We had a few contenders here.
A few different contenders this week. Did consider Anthony Simons. They were really, really good in Portland, 3-1 record, and production-wise this week, 22 points, 3 rebounds and 4 assists was brilliant. And big old Desi Bane over in Memphis had a really good week, 2-1 for the Memphis Grizzlies with 25 points, 5 assists, and again, really, really good shooting splits. But ultimately, we went with arguably probably one of your favourite players at the moment, right, Jason Tatum?
Favourite player at the minute, I'd say those numbers similar to Ja Morant last week when we were saying MVP. Well, actually, when we went with Ja Morant the first week, and then it was Giannis last week. And each time the player of the week is more of that MVP calibre. Obviously, both players you've mentioned there have played phenomenal, but to average 36 points this week now, 37 points a game, 5.5 rebounds, 3.8 assists. He's shooting 50% from the field, 39 from the 3-point line, and 81 from the free throw line.
Yeah,
he's phenomenal. He's carrying the Celtics. When he plays well, they tend to follow.
Yeah,
it's similar to obviously they live and die by the threes and stuff, which you said earlier. But phenomenal player to watch. It's good to see him grow as a player. I think to see him do that consistently through a season. Obviously, he done it last year for the latter half of the season into the playoffs.
Half of last season was brilliant.
He really pushed on. So to see him to be able to do it for a full season this year, it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
To see him carry the Celtics and see how they push on. But certainly this week, I think he's close to the runaway. There was some good contenders there, but it's, in my opinion, definitely Jason
there was
Tatum.
a few contenders, but I think he was top of the list, wasn't he? I think the thing I'm most impressed with, I always wonder how players react to an NBA Finals loss. It must be the worst thing as an NBA player to get to the Finals and get so bloody close and come up short.
It's such a slog, isn't it? The amount of games.
Yeah, just the extra games you're playing and being probably within touch and distance and feeling closer than ever, and it doesn't come your way. I'm always interested how do they respond. Now, the Celtics throughout the course of the season have been brilliant, but just for a snapshot of this week, Jason Tatum he's easily in the MVP conversation, and I think he's well deserved of the Basketball Talk Player of the Week. So well done, Jason.
So that's it for this week. Join us next time for some more Basketball Talk.